Hello and welcome to sim.bc where it is 15:30. Yes, it's just half past 3 in the afternoon, and it seems like I said that, oh, I'm going to get so much structure when me mate moves out, but it just seems like I'm pushing the time of recording further and further and further every day, and that's mainly because I'm waking up so goddamn late. And why am I doing that? Well, because this week, like half of all the episodes, half of all the series that I'm watching have premieres, so that's the thing. Anyway, this is also the 49th episode, which means that tomorrow is the 50th. Yay! I know, it's crazy, alright. As I said before, I didn't think I was gonna make it past 5, and now we're 10 times that amount. Soon, tomorrow we are. So, a little bit pre-celebration, a bit of pre-celebration here, but it's all good and dandy. Fine, fine. Anyway, but you don't want to sit and listen to that all day now, would you? Instead, we can talk about tool sharing. No, we don't, we won't, we absolutely won't. That was something about yesterday in yesterday's lecture in sustainability where we had a case about tool sharing. I think I mentioned it before because I read it a couple of days ago. Quite a good article though, but presented in such a lackluster way. I mean, we presented our case last week, and it's only one group that should present per what do you say, per time, per lecture, exactly. So we're about 20 groups, 15 to 20 groups, and 2 groups presents, and those groups are divided into groups. I think I've discussed this before, but anyway, so we were talking about tool sharing anyway, and have you ever had that feeling that you would have done something so much better than the people who are in class, and you're just feeling like, why wasn't I picked? No, of course you wouldn't, because you're lazy. No, you're not lazy, but I know that most people think that, oh, thank God they didn't pick me, but then still they judge the people who are in the front. Now, I'm kind of in the same league here, because I can admit I am also judging the people in the front, when they're presenting, but that's what I should do. Not judging, perhaps, but like thinking about feedback is a better way of putting it. Like, this is something they could have done better. Here they lost the audience. This is what they could do in order to increase their performance. The presentation techniques that I went through a couple of days back now. I think it was yesterday, the day before that, maybe something like that. And I could just spot all of these mistakes, and I was like, here are people who clearly haven't thought about the presentation techniques because they're missing half of the points. I mean, they have PowerPoint slides where the theme of the slide is all over the place. People are not listening. They're not following what they're saying, and the message is all over the place. Anyway, and I was sitting there like, I have a super good PowerPoint. I can just fly in and take over. But, unfortunately that didn't happen because we presented last week. Now, I know that was a bit of a ramble, but I just had to get it out of my system because I was sitting there and was like, I can do this better. I think I can do this better. But usually you think that way, and then when it comes down to it, you're like equally as bad as the rest of them. Which is also the case for me, unfortunately, sometimes. Sometimes it's brilliant, and I am better. Sometimes I'm worse. Sometimes I'm at the same level, so it's really easy to be judgmental and think about critical feedback, but hard to implement it. Now, yeah, I'm PC, politically correct. Anyway. So, yesterday I was watching this new series of mine, or not new series, but rather Blacklist it's called, and the main protagonist there, I think it's called protagonist in English, anyway, the main character was talking about the idea of adoption, and why adoption could be a good thing. Now let's see if I can get the script here, not the script, but just some bullet points from yourself to go by. So it's a sustainability question, in my opinion, this entire adoption idea, because in the series she had the argument of adopting a kid instead of making one, and now it turns out later in the series that is because she was adopted herself, and that might have a positive impact on her decision of adoption. But I think that adoption isn't that bad of an idea, actually. And why? Well, I'm going to present to you now. Some people say that the meaning of life is to make it continue. And what does that mean? Well, having children. But I would say, since we have gotten so good at it, making children, we should not look at, well, what have I written here? But since we've gotten so good at it, should we not, should we not look after the lives we have instead? Instead of making new ones, because that's what we're good at, going at it, and overpopulating the earth. And as I've said before, this Swedish guy whose name escaped me yet again, Hans Rosling, yeah, that's him, talked about this population stagnation at 11 billion people. So a good way of keeping to that target, or actually getting lower if we are able to, would actually be to start adopting kids instead of making our own. At least in the Western world, or I would not necessarily in the westernized world, but I would say people who have a strong economy, who they in a country where child mortality is low, I would say it's quite a good option to adopt. I mean, why not? Think about it. You redistribute wealth and people and resources when you adopt. Because if you adopt a kid that would otherwise die, okay, that's a bad example. But let's say that, well, it's not actually. If you have someone in a country where you have a kid who is without parents and they're most likely going to have a shitty life or die, isn't it better to take care of this life and adopt this kid into a I would so love to say modern here, but I think it's the wrong terminology. Put them into your own home and under your own roof, and love them and provide for them, instead of making your own kid that you would do the same with, but the other kid would die. Isn't it better to take that kid to your place and nurture them? And that's the entire idea I think about adoption. And I know that many people have touched upon this, but I just would like to get it out in my system, because this is a bit of a, what should I say, a diary thing for me, this vlogosphere. So, adopt kids instead of getting your own. So many people in the world with no home and no love, who needs just that in an already overpopulated world. And it is a sustainability question. Well, how good am I to have actually written all of that down? So, would love to know what you guys think about this, because it is something that, hits close to home for me. I mean, the idea of adoption, I never liked when I grew up. I mean, I wouldn't say I didn't like it, but I would rather say that I never thought about ever adopting a kid when I was growing up, because it was so natural that, oh, I will grow up, I will find a wife, or a man for that matter, whatever floats your boat. I'm not sure yet. And get a kid. But then adoption never, crossed my mind. But the more I'm studying economics and sustainability, the more I'm thinking about that's probably a viable option. I mean, you're still going to do the same thing with an adopted kid as you would with your own. The only difference is that you would actually make a positive impact in the world too. And I know that, because you're saving a life in a sense, or nurturing, or providing love, or shelter, or whatever you might say. And I know that there are many celebrities who have done this. They've adopted people from countries where the living conditions or the living standard is low and the child mortality is high, which is brilliant. Awareness and all of that. I can't find any bad reason for why adoption should, any reason for why adoption should be a bad thing. Now, I might see that, could be an argument for that. If adoption becomes a big thing, then some kids might be torn from their homes, so to say, in less fortunate areas of the world, in order to meet the high demand for adoption in the more modern world. I'm gonna say modern. You know what? I don't mean modern, but I think you understand what I mean. Instead of saying westernized, because in East Asia they're also modern, and Japan, and Australia, and all of that, in Europe too. So let's just say modern instead. But if it became high enough, if the demand exceeded the supply of adoptable kids, so to say, then I can see a potential catastrophe being unleashed on the world, where just as drug cartels or human trafficking, they're ripping kids away from their families in order to make us be able to adopt them in the more modern part of society. Um, that could, of course, be a very bad thing, and that's a potential problem stemmed from supply and demand. Yet again, the economics is the devil in the room. But if we say that that wouldn't happen and everybody had common sense and a bit of humanity in them, adoption isn't that bad of a thing. And that's what I try to. That's the point I'm trying to make come across. So that adoption not such a bad thing actually, and I know that most people don't think it's a bad thing either. So why am I discussing this? Well, mainly because I didn't think of adoption as a viable option until well yesterday when I was just thinking like, hmm, I know I've discussed this in class. I know I've been arguing for it, but I have never really thought about the process and thought about the consequences and the implications of adoption before. So we just like to, raise even more awareness about this. Even though it's probably not needed, but it's debatable if something is needed or not. Now, that was all I have for today. I know it's a bit rambly, but I have my mind on yet tomorrow's video. That's going to be the 50th video, well, however you pronounce that. And I have a bit of things I'm going to do today. I'm going to do a cash flow statement, going to redo the balance sheet and the income statement, and I have so much to do. And then I have the sustainability report I have to read, and then I have go to the gym and play some music, and I'm just focusing on balancing my life right now. But it's going to be all good. It's going to be okay. Most of these things I've taken on myself and burdened myself with of my own free will, so I could just skip them without any real consequences, so to say, except for my own feelings. So I'm not really that stressed, I can say. So till tomorrow, guys. Till the 50th video. Woohoo! Bye.